everybody. Welcome. Friday at 2 o'clock. It must be Burnie's Applebox. Here we are again, and we have a very special guest today. Somebody I'm very excited to learn a lot from, Ms. Ariana Farina. Very nice. Yes, I'm sorry. You told me before we did it, and I accidentally did it. She sprung her hand, somebody shook too hard, and I went to naturally just shake it. I apologize. I'm sorry.
Thank you for going easy on it. No, I saw you. I saw you like remember that, and
yes,
then
you did.
And then you went very soft.
Yes, you did. Okay, thank you. And we got the guys here today too: Sean, Tony, and of course Tyler.
Lead on it, Tyler. Lead it.
Get in there. Get in there. All right, and we're going to have it today. And, you know, I'm excited about today because this is something that I really don't have a big knowledge base about, and I've really sort of been removed from the festival world, the film festival world, in which you consult filmmakers, right? They're making a movie, they want to know the right steps to take going to a film festival. You will consult with them and give them a pathway to that. Am I correct on that?
Yeah. So I'm a festival programmer, screener, film appreciator, film competition judge, and along in the process, I've created a sort of a presentation that kind of runs you through the whole process. It's something that I think hasn't been available until now.
Right.
Like I started off as a filmmaker, and this was years ago. I made a feature film, and I thought, okay, well I'm going to submit this to festivals. That's what I'm going to do. And when I made the film, then I started Googling. Okay, well, what do I do? How do I do this? I don't know who do I even talk to? And I started finding articles about it, and I kind of followed those steps. And I think there's so much more to it than what can be currently found online or what I found in any sort of classes or anything like that. There's so many specifics for like the inner workings in film festivals. There's so many like little practical tips, things that sound logical to do but really are not logical to do. And so I've incorporated those in the presentation because I was thinking, let's be transparent about this. I know sometimes it feels like there's a veil behind, film festivals to filmmakers, and they feel like there's nowhere to go, nowhere to ask. And so I thought, let's create something, let's put it all out there. Let's be honest. Let's help them empower themselves to help themselves, and then help them help the festival, and help the festival help them.
That's awesome. And you are very correct about the veil. Now, me not really knowing that side of the business, or that aspect of the business, and just to iterate this, that the part of the reason for this, for my show here, is because the industry is so huge and it's so many multifaceted. You could be in it like I am and know a certain section and be an expert in that section. But boy, you get out of that lane very far and you're lost. It's almost like a whole different industry, So not knowing anything about the film festival process is going to be very interesting for me to do. But I would think a lot of people really don't know a lot about it. Am I correct on that?
I think you're exactly correct. I think, and I think that filmmakers will be the first ones to admit this.
Yes. Oh, I agreed.
When I put this presentation together, immediately I got a bunch of people being like, yes, please, and we need this information. Where are you presenting this information? Because it's just not available. And even veteran filmmakers, I would say, folks that have made multiple features, multiple shorts, people who have been working for years, see the exact same mistakes. You kind of miss the points, that could really help them succeed in the festival circuit. So it's kind of giving that information finally, I think, to filmmakers.
You're very right, and I know. But before the show, we were talking, and one of the things we discussed is that the proliferation of information that has come up in the last 10 years for filmmakers or anybody in the media industry. But I do feel like the festivals as an entity, because so many people are going through the festival route to get their film shown, distributed, all of that. I feel that there is a lot lacking, and I know we want to be careful because we don't want to like identify any specific festivals or anything like that, either to endorse them or not endorse them, let's just say. But give me a feel, somebody, if they're starting, if they have their film, they have their story, they know what they want to tell, yet they haven't filmed anything yet. Give me your suggestions or approach in looking at the festival and how they're going to approach a festival. So before you even roll any film or tape or whatever, tell me about, well, neither of those things we do. We put it on chips now, right? Yeah. So before that, how should they approach their film festival strategy?
Well,
and I know that's a big one. Just pick
so here's really the ideal place to start. It's at concept.
Okay.
And I think a lot of filmmakers don't think about it that way. Not to say that you can't start later, but really, if start at concept if you can. When you have the concept, choose a concept that you feel will work for your personal film festival strategy. Mm-hmm. And there's no one path to go. Mm-hmm. You're going to want to think about, okay, well, where do I want to take it? How do I want to take it? What are my what are my goals? That's really one of the biggest things you want to define straight up front. What are my goals with this? And a lot of filmmakers, their goals, and the most common one, right, is you make a film and you sell it in a big way and it's a huge success, and then you become Steven Spielberg, right?
Right.
So that's what everybody wants to do, right? But there's other goals. There's also maybe you want to make this film and you want to find an agent or a manager.
Sure.
Maybe, you tried for that first goal and then you're like, okay, but then my secondary goal is this. Some folks, they just want to make the money back, and this is more usually, sometimes increasingly for shorts now, but for features, they just want to make the money back so their investors are
they can get people off their back.
Yeah, so they're going to get more money for their next film. Maybe they want to just share their art. There are some folks that just make pieces and they want to go out there, they want to find their audience, they want to share it as many festivals as possible. So you really want to set those goals. You want to figure out, okay, which one of these goals and in what order, are they prioritized for me? Because then you can really think about, what is my festival strategy? Which festivals do I want to go to? Mm-hmm. Am I making a horror film? Do I need to find out, what are the top horror film festivals? Mm-hmm. Do I just want to show it at as many festivals as possible? Do I just need to go out there and look to see what different festivals are in different areas, how they're rated? Mm-hmm. Do I need to go, how, what their missions are? You really, so start with your goals, right? Start with your goals, and then there's no one path.
Right. So let me ask you this then, and you named a couple things which I think are very interesting. One is the horror film, because I think, first of all, that's almost one of the last genres where you actually don't have to have a name. You can make a scary enough movie to attract attention. Right, with even without a name. Of course, it's going to do better if it has a name, but it can work even without that. And then let's say what I consider the polar opposite, a documentary. Okay, so with those two things, there's got to be festivals where you want to just take that horror film, and then other festivals you just want to take that documentary, right? So is that your first goal to weed out between those two, just looking at all the horror or documentary film festivals that you look at? That's like a first goal, right? Yeah,
and then there's also festivals that take both, like Dances with Films.
Okay.
Which is the
I know
festival.
You're associated with
I am
those.
associated with Dances with Films, and we have both. But horror, like you said, is a common choice because So to go back briefly to Dances with Films. Dances with Films intentionally programs films without stars. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of, a lot of people feel that they're limited to horror sometimes to go to a lot of other festivals. Mm-hmm. With Dances with Films, you can have other types of films and not have a star and potentially be programmed.
Well, you know what? This is probably a good thing. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh,
Do you
that's
want to
okay.
finish that?
No, it's okay.
This is probably a good time for somebody like me who does know very little about film festivals. Tell me about the approach. So, and I mean just very generically, people submit films, right? And then a jury process goes through that and says these can compete, these films can compete. Give me an idea of the criteria there, of what they're looking at about competitiveness. Is it just like production value, or is it messaging, or the type of movie that you have, something like that? What is the criteria when people are generally looking to let a film into a festival?
And this, it's really such a broad question. It completely depends upon the festival, what they're looking for. I think some broader truths, though, would be that they're looking for something that's going to play well. Of course, you're going to want to make sure you don't want blurry shots in your film. Think about that theater that festival has. Do they have a huge theater? Mm-hmm. Do they have something that has like 450 seats in it? Is it huge? Are they worried about how it's going to look on screen? Mm-hmm. They also want filmmakers, great filmmakers that want to help themselves. So, positioning yourself and how you present yourself as a filmmaker as that type of person who not only wants to help themselves, but is able to help themselves and, take steps towards achieving their goals.
Yeah.
And it's really hard, it depends upon a lot of circumstances to answer it beyond that.
No, understood.
And there's tips too. Like, so one tip I think a lot of people don't think about, and my presentation is largely focused on common filmmaker mistakes and tips and tricks. And one tip I think people don't think about is when they name their film.
Okay.
Festivals, sometimes it's hard to program films that have a common name. And the reason is because if they get more than one film with the same name on it, there gets like confusion at the festival if they program both.
Right.
So
naturally,
do you really want to put them in the position to choose your film over the 4 other films that were named the same thing? And this happens every year. Everybody's like, well, how do I know? What's a common name? Well, there's IMDb. Go look at that.
Okay.
Think about the name. Put something in the name that's compelling and that we'll remember. Mm-hmm. I mean, we try and give everything a fair shot, but any little bonus that you can give yourself, give it like a name that we'll remember.
It's like a book title, right?
Yeah.
You want to catch them. That's the first chance you have to catch them.
Sure. Yeah. That, and also making sure if there's an option for a synopsis there or something, put that information in. Don't miss those opportunities to give information.
Okay.
Present yourself in the best light.
Okay.
If there's introductory letters, do those things.
And what is your thought on that? Because that would seem to me like it's better for the filmmaker to be able to present putting their best foot forward to that festival. And is there a little checklist that these are things you need to always do? Maybe a more grandiose thing, but what do you absolutely need to do whenever sending into a festival?
The list is quite long, but I'll give you a few.
Sure, please.
So, set up your marketing plan. Know how you're going to market your film before you go into that festival.
Okay.
And
that's huge.
Yes.
That's huge.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, because the thing is, here's the thing, right? A lot of folks think if you put a movie in a theater, people will just naturally show up. Mm-hmm. It's just not true. The big studios know this too. That's why they put millions of dollars into their marketing of these films. And if you can imagine, if they have to spend that much to something that's so accessible, just down the block from you, like your film programmed out at who knows where, maybe at a small little theater somewhere, maybe not, trying to sift through that noise. So you want to set up your marketing plan, and I think that the thing sometimes is filmmakers need to understand what a marketing plan is. Because, yes, okay, so a lot of people get to the first step. The first step is usually, okay, well, what do I want to do, and what audience will this appeal to? And they'll go, okay, well, I think, my film will appeal to veterans, or I think it'll appeal, to some other group or something. And then they write that in their marketing plan, and then they stop there going, okay, well, they'll just show up.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they're not just going to show up. And you need to go, okay, well, then what's step 2? Step 2 is writing out how you're going to reach out to those folks.
Yeah.
And what can that include? Local groups in that area where the festival is, social media influencers, maybe you're, every year I'm surprised by filmmakers, unique marketing strategies, but getting down in there and doing that grassroots marketing, standing out on Hollywood Boulevard, handing out their
with a Superman outfit on or something, right?
Yeah, anyway, you can get attention. But handing out your flyers, having those personal conversations with people. People are a lot more. So a lot of people, when they, especially filmmakers outside of LA, they come here thinking, "Oh, I got to be aloof and very cool about it." And it's like, no, you
just
should
the opposite.
Do the exact opposite.
Yeah.
You have to go out there and talk to everybody. If somebody feels like they had a personal experience with you or connection with you or heard something really great personally from you about your film, they're much more likely to come to the theater and see your film. And
everybody wants to feel that enthusiasm from you. That's another thing. You have to make people feel enthusiastic about your project, whether it's a movie or anything else.
Yeah, I mean, how are you going to get this person to come see your film over, Superman 8 or whatever is the latest thing out there? Like, why is your film going to draw their attention that night? Everybody has their money they're going to spend, and why are they going to spend that on yours? And usually it's because of some unique experience, some personal connection, something that truly appeals to the very core of what they're interested in. But you have to reach out to them.
Yeah.
And so making sure you have that in your marketing plan. Put money in your budget for a publicist. I know as filmmakers, we're oftentimes spending our last buck on just finishing the project, getting it done.
Yeah.
But this is really why it's important at concept to understand that, you may make a film, but nobody's ever going to see it if you don't kind of have this money and this plan on the back end to actually get it seen.
Yeah.
Because honestly, it's small to the very largest festivals. If there's no marketing done, you could show up to this festival, sit in that theater by yourself, and nobody's going to watch that film. And then, what's the point?
Yeah.
If there's no enthusiasm built around it, if there's no audience to see it,
buzz or
there's
anything
no
like
buzz,
that.
there's no industry execs in the theater to watch it, there's nobody telling industry execs to go watch your film afterwards, kind of what's the point? So really thinking about that up front. This is a film that you want to think about something that you know how to market and you know how to find your audience for.
Yeah, that's great. Those are great tips. I like that. Tony, we got a question?
We actually do, but I'm going to save this one until after the break.
Okay.
I actually have a question for you. Is it a common misconception that filmmakers think that there is sort of a built-in audience when it comes to film festivals? It's a film festival, people will just show up and because they want to watch films. Yeah,
I guess that's what I was trying to get at. So this is especially true for cities like New York and Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Burnie and I were talking beforehand, if we wanted to, here in LA, we could probably go and see somebody's indie feature every single day of the week.
All the time, probably a couple times a day.
We could. I mean, that's how much stuff is going on here. So it's really, really, really hard, especially to get people in these cities to come see your film. So if you're outside of the city, and even if you're here, you're really, really going to have to hunt that audience. Now, this might not be true for every single festival. Maybe in, teeny tiny town in, Arkansas or something, and this is the only thing that's happening ever. And maybe the film festival is promoting it, a ton outside, and, people in the town, they may go see a random film, right?
Yeah.
But most places, no. It's not usually fully built in for you. And even if you think it is, I wouldn't run that risk. I would. I would put
you want
that.
To take that chance on your film, right? Yeah.
You got it in, right? They chose you over everybody else. They want film. We want to see filmmakers succeed.
Yeah.
We want to see them give themselves the best chance. Those are the filmmakers we want to see at the festival. We want to see you help yourself, and we want to help you, but
Right.
it's a mutual relationship to do that. So yes, hunt that audience, put that marketing plan together, and make sure it's solid.
Yeah. And you know this, I'm very sure. I think a lot of people know this who are in this community down in LA and probably Atlanta or whatever. People will help you when they see you helping yourself.
Yes.
They are more than happy to come in and give that assist. You know what I mean? But you have got to get up to bat. You know, you've got to be the one standing there and stuff. You know what? We're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
We'll be right back, and we'll see you then. Hi, I'm Burnie. I own Burnie's Grip and Lighting, San Diego Grip and Lighting, and Los Angeles Grip and Lighting. You know, we pride ourselves on not only renting you the best equipment, but also giving you the best crews. And one of our core values here at Burnie's Grip and Lighting is that we give you the highest production value in the world. And remember, people used to say national, local. No, we present world-class production value on every set. We also know budgets are very tight these days, and you've got 10 hours to get what you need in the can. We move ahead, we move fast, and we know what you need. When you rent from Burnie's Grip and Lighting, you have a partner on your production for that day that is making sure you are well taken care of. So anytime you're in Southern California, give us a call at 714-609-3545, and we'll take very good care of you. See you on set. Hey everybody, we're back with Ariana and talking film festivals and doing all that. One thing, I think we had a question though, didn't we, Tony, from Mr. Wilwaco, who was our guest 2 weeks ago here. So
Yes,
that's
yes,
awesome.
we do. Dave Wilwaco, thanks for watching. It was great having you on. He would like to know, he says, I know some people are able to turn in their films that are not final draft or final cut, not colored or full sound design, just to meet the deadline. Do these films still get shown at film festivals?
It depends upon the festival, is always my answer to that. So make sure you understand their policies about that. If it's unclear, ask them. You know, usually there's some way that you can contact the festival about that. The big thing about that is you usually want to put your best foot forward. Now, yes, have I seen films like that program before? Definitely. But the festival usually needs to see pretty quickly that final version. So after you complete, your rough cut, make sure you're able to send that final version. Some festivals even, do the filmmaker the benefit of trying to put those off until watching some other ones kind of as long as possible to see if they can get that final version. So, you got to do what you got to do sometimes. Best foot forward if you can. But if you think it's there and you think it's still compelling enough to get in, then it still may be an option depending upon the festival.
Interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, you would think with filmmakers they keep tweaking and tweaking and tweaking until it's overdone. You know what I mean? But when I'm looking at this and being an outsider to it too, I'm just looking at, and this is completely off the wall right now. So if you don't have a thought on this, that's fine. But is there a group of people who are going around and making short films and just strategizing? In other words, they're not thinking that film's going to make it. But I want to be in these festivals enough. I want to get entrenched in the festival world enough where I can start getting better and better and better and doing bigger festivals. Any strategy like that for a filmmaker?
Well, I can't think of anything specific offhand, but I know that many festivals have, mixers, or also if you're in a festival, oftentimes it's a great opportunity to meet those other filmmakers. I know at Dances with Films, we have all sorts of filmmakers that get together and keep in contact afterwards and wind up working together.
Yeah.
And they show up to the festival, they network, and then they set up their next project.
So a good place
and with
to
these
network.
it's a good place to network because these are other doers, right? You
Yeah,
know? And
right.
you go out, you don't know, and maybe one person in this room of 100 is actually executing this stuff that they're talking about.
Right.
At a festival, these people not only executed something, but it was something good enough to get into that festival.
Well, they've been on a journey just to get there. By the
Yes.
time that is being shown at that festival, they've been through quite a journey
Yeah,
to make it
absolutely.
happen. To make it happen. Is there a particular genre that does better at festivals than others, to your knowledge base?
Does better in terms of.
I guess maybe getting picked up or acceptance, has a better time of it. I'll give you just an example. Would it be a documentary or a comedy? Would it be, you know what I mean, so horror or biopic,
I think it would be hard for me to comment because I don't know the stats on that.
Yeah.
But I can tell you I see all types. Now, in terms of what festivals receive, at general festivals where we take a bunch of different stuff, which is Dances with Films, is one of those. It isn't a genre festival. We see a lot of dramas submitted, right? So
Right.
it is nice to see a comedy submitted sometimes. I love your dark family drama.
Yeah.
I love, those are cool too. If
Right.
that's your vision,
Right.
you got to do
That's
that,
your
right?
story, yeah.
But if you also have that comedy idea, stuff that we less often see, it's kind of like, and I suspect sometimes, distributors think that way too. I see a variety of things picked up. It's not like I see one thing, like only these films get picked
Yeah.
up. It's not.
You see a large variety.
I do. I see all the way from the dark dramas to the comedies get picked up by distributors. Some people get, deals, to make films afterwards. It just, it's hard to say one thing, there's probably facts on that, but I don't have the specific facts.
Right. I think we may have another question. Tony, what's going on?
We actually do have another question. Our good friend of the show, Austin Sabato,
Oh,
who has
Austin.
also been on the show.
Austin the man.
He has a pretty specific question. What are some key items that to have in a marketing plan?
Ooh, I like that. Any thoughts on that?
Yes. Well, understanding, what you think your audience to be, and then goals to reach that audience, and then specific things to do at that specific festival. Because the way you're going to market a film in a tiny little town in Louisiana versus some much larger film, maybe in Los Angeles, it's a completely different strategy. So making sure you have, this is the number one missed thing, I think, is concrete, clear steps to reach those audiences and market that film, not just thinking who's going to like the film.
When you say concrete and clear, give me an example of that. How the detail of information somebody would.
I mean, I think you should get down to what are the exact group names in that area. How am I going to contact them? Maybe there's all sorts of, local groups, social media influencers, publicists, absolutely. You're going to need a publicist to get write-ups, especially in big cities. And I mean, there's many other ways, and then also, like I said, putting that information in there about doing the grassroots hunting, like how you're going to show up to every single, and this kind of goes back to something you're saying. If you're supportive of somebody else's thing, they're going to be supportive of your thing. One thing I think I've seen that's been especially effective is filmmakers reach out to the other filmmakers that have been accepted to film festivals. Talk to them. Ask them. Don't start with
I like that.
Don't start
I
with
like
I'm
that.
this and will you do this for me? But start with what are you doing?
Yeah.
Tell me what you're doing here. What are your goals?
I admire what you
I'm-
did. Please, if you
Yeah.
can give me any information, that'd be awesome.
and start
Yeah.
a conversation what they do. It naturally leads into your thing eventually, and then those lead into conversations, of how you can help each other, or maybe make a project, for your next project together.
I like that. I like that a lot. That's very good. Do you know any guess about how many film festivals there are in the U.S.? Any? Because I'll tell you what, if somebody were to ask me on the street and they go, name what film festivals are there? In all honesty, I would obviously, I think everybody in the world would come with this. Cannes, you know what I mean? The French, that's been there since I was a child, and Tribeca, I guess, and I think that's been around 20, 30 years, if I'm not mistaken, at least 20. I'm sure of that. But you know, after that, I know we have the Newport Film Festival. I know they have the Palm Springs Film Festival because I'm in those neighborhoods and I find out about that. And of course, I just assume there is some festival going on in LA all the time, you know, of any given size. But amounts, do you have any amounts? I mean, I'm sure they're in every state and in even every semi-large city, you know. Any numbers on that or anything that you can?
I would suspect thousands.
I would suspect thousands too.
I mean, just to think of how many we have in LA, but also to see folks that are, you know, putting them on in their small towns, and you know, each state has several, you know, at least.
How does a person, a filmmaker, going about that decide where they go to? I mean, what are the considerations they should take in about deciding which film festival they would go to? Just to throw something out there, if somebody's in Minnesota and they've got a relatively smaller budget, you know, it doesn't maybe behoove them to pick one in LA that's a big film festival that a lot of people, although that's maybe where they want to go. Give me some ideas on that.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point of money. It costs a lot to submit to film festivals. So this is when you go back to your goals. What are your goals? Mm-hmm. Look at, so usually you're going to have a first round of festivals that you submit to. That first round should be the festivals that will help you achieve your highest goals. Maybe and then a round 2, and then maybe even a round 3, but be aware, a lot of film festivals don't accept films that are over 1 or 2 years, so you really are going to want to stay on point with those rounds that you submit to. But it goes back to your goals. So you're gonna want to choose your first round based upon, like, what are your top festivals? What are the ones that you really think can achieve those goals? You know, whether it be, you know, finding that agent or manager. Where do you think agents and managers go? Do you think they're going to a tiny little festival, or do you think they're going to...
Right, whose eyeballs?
Or do you think that they're going maybe to some of the larger known festivals or ones in big cities? You have to think about that, right? But maybe if you're just like, I got this cool little art film, I want to play it at as many, you know, genre festivals as possible, maybe that smaller festival is a good choice for you. It just depends. Mm-hmm. So I don't like to tell filmmakers to go one way, but I do, because this is one of the most commonly made mistakes, you have to think about your premiere status. And this is explained further on many festival web pages, exactly what it is, but for some of the larger festivals, and especially the festivals in New York and Los Angeles and some other bigger cities around the world too, they prefer or require something called premiere status, which means you can't play your film at their festival if it's already played somewhere else, or it puts you at a disadvantage of being programmed at that festival if it's already played somewhere else. And not just, what can affect your premiere status? Playing in another festival. Already having a distribution deal, playing in theaters, that's affected. I've seen it. Films already...
But you've scored the touchdown already then, haven't you?
Oh, they think so, but you know, everyone has their own goals. Maybe they just want to go out to festivals and play.
Sure.
You know, having a large cast and crew screening. Why is this important? This goes back to New York and Los Angeles especially. It's hard to get those audiences in theaters, right? It's hard. It would be hard to get industry folk into a screening if something had already played just down the block, you know, at another festival, or there was another public screening recently. festivals want to help you. They want to be able to bring those industry folks in. So they want to play stuff that they'd be more interested in going to see. And
Sure.
usually that's newer stuff or stuff that hasn't at least played
been
in that
seen
area.
before. Yeah.
So be careful of that and be honest with festivals about that too. The thing is, I think a lot of folks sometimes they don't realize that a lot of us know each other. We do know each other and we do talk, and some of us screen and program for more than one
Right.
festival or in contact with festivals that we previously screened or programmed with. We also are going to screenings all the time. I've had filmmakers submit films, say, "Oh, premiere status, we totally have it. You're our top choice." And then I look up a film of my friends, that's playing at another festival, and I see their film sitting right next to it, and it's like.
Right.
So I know it seems go without saying, but be honest and just be aware of that. So you're not going to want to submit to a festival in your first round that maybe doesn't require premiere status if you're looking at premiere status festivals. You're going to want to submit them like your top festival first, right? See what happens. Give it a shot. Go for the big bucks, and then. Kind of take it from there, but be strategic about it and be strategic in your second and third rounds, because just because you don't get in your top film festival doesn't mean you can't achieve your goals or other goals, secondary goals.
Right. And just hearing you talk, I'm thinking of it would be wise for a filmmaker to maybe look at making a group of films that take you someplace. I mean, this is probably very unlikely you're going to submit to a film festival first time and hit the jackpot. I mean, it could happen, but unlikely, right?
Yeah.
So maybe this is something, start at the lower festivals and build your way up. Is there any kind of thinking on that? Is it better maybe sometimes to start lower, find out what you're doing, and then go up to a larger festival?
Well, I think always go for the stars. Sometimes first time projects, they do get programmed. Yeah, it's like winning the lottery sometimes.
Yeah, right.
Your first time project, it can be, especially at some of the top festivals. But go for the stars. See what happens. And I don't think and not to say you couldn't go this way too.
Yeah,
but I think
not a big deal.
If you have a dream, if you have a dream.
That's awesome.
Give it a shot and keep going for it. That's what I think,
Yeah.
And then learn from where you go. And I think you bring up another point too. So just because you don't get your film into a festival the first time around doesn't mean that you're not going to get it in future years.
Right.
I mentioned there are a lot of tips, tricks, things behind the scenes, things that you're going to have control over, things you're not going to have control over. All this I get into detail in this presentation I'm speaking on, but you may not get in that year, but you may get in the following year.
Right.
I see filmmakers come submit something, and I see that talent, and I go, for one reason or another, just couldn't program it that year. And the next year, I see them come back and submit something, and it's even better, or it works that year.
Sure.
It fits within the programming that we can do, and we program it. So try not to get your heart broken. Try to understand this is part of the process. Everybody needs practice too in their filmmaking. Look at some of your favorite filmmakers. Look at how many unknown tiny little films that they did before they hit it big. It's quite common.
Yeah.
And same thing too. We have I've seen people come to festivals, get in 2 years in a row, then not get in the third year. But they're still polite, nice to the festival, even show up, and network,
the
and
festival.
Still supportive, and and then they come back with something, and they're straight back in the game, and they're in again. So I would say try.
It's kind of like the movies, right? Some of them go, some of them don't.
Some of them don't,
Yeah. Let me ask you this, and let me just say this too, to begin with too. Please, questions. Anybody has a question about film festivals, whatever, lay it on us. We got the lady here right now. So that's awesome. But I wanted to talk because we haven't really talked budget. And I know there'll be variation in this, but what is a reasonable, realistic marketing budget for a film you make and you're going to now present it to the festivals? What does that number look like in a range?
It depends upon how many festivals you intend to submit to. It's anywhere, I think, from $5 to over $100 sometimes for a submission fee. So be aware of that. That's why you're putting together your first tier, second tier, and third tier, and sticking to that. You know, you got to think about travel expenses.
Right.
A lot of festivals require something called DCP being made, so you can play your film at that festival. That, I believe, can be $1,000 or so.
Okay, so that could be a technical thing that they need.
Yeah, so you're going to want to think about paying that publicist. And I think those, you know, range from a few thousand to several thousand. You're going to want to think about promotional materials. What are you going to, you know, are you going to have your little cards, your posters? Are you going to hand out little, you know, trinkets or something with their name on it or something that they can use later on at the festival? I would say, a lot more than you think. When I say a lot, it's double meaning. A lot more and a lot more money than you think you're going to need for this, and you should be safe, and you know, just understand.
I mean, that list right there, you're spending well over $1,000 to several $1,000 on marketing and on marketing to the film festival.
And travel.
And travel.
And travel. Because if you don't come and make the most of the experience, you know, it's hard for anything to happen.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, nothing is going to happen. But
well, you know, what I've learned in this business is you have to be out front. You can have, there's plenty of people that work in my world that no one's ever heard of, especially on my side of the camera. But there are the ones who are a little more outgoing, who are a little more open, always do so much better. And it's the same with a filmmaker. You know, just like you said in the very beginning, if you want to come be aloof, stay home, right? Maybe, and do that in your bedroom. But if you're out there in a theater, at a festival, you should be pressing the flesh. You should be shaking hands, talking to people, getting introduced to people, making introductions.
Absolutely. The most successful filmmakers wind up with that Audience Choice Awards usually, and then distribution deals. It's those folks out there, you know, really putting themselves out there.
Right out there.
Right out there, standing out in front every single day.
I think we may have another question. Tony, we got something?
Well, it's in line with what you're suggesting. Maybe you can comment on this. William Primrose.
William.
Suggesting maybe it's a great idea to have a festival party or get together in a hotel room or suites when you attend the festival. Invite people to come by afterwards to mingle. Suggest that's a good idea.
Yeah, great idea.
Yeah,
absolutely great idea.
So it's a little after party, you know, like a lot of you have an after party. Maybe you have that in your suite or something like that for people after the film, hors d'oeuvres, cocktails, whatever.
Hey, people love free food and free drinks.
Don't they though? That's for sure.
But also, you know, gives you an additional chance, you know, to connect with other folks at the festival and, you know, other industry folks if you're able to get them to come to these parties. Yeah,
no, that's great. I think we're going to take a little break right now, and we will be right back.
Audio's out. Good. Awesome. Cool. Sorry. And
Burnie's workshop is fantastic. Burnie's workshop is awesome. Burnie's workshop is insightful.
Burnie, in one word, passionate maybe. You can tell he really cares a lot.
Burnie is a badass.
He's a great teacher. He has great stories. And I would recommend this to anyone, not only someone like me who's starting day one, but you know, I feel that in any profession, as you sharpen your sword, it always gets sharper.
I think the best thing about this is the access to understanding how to run your business, how to actually be in this filmmaking industry and make money at it. Coming to this workshop, I think, is what actually gets you the tools to understand how to do that, how to get out there and sell yourself.
I thought that was really cool. I thought, he knows all the tricks in the book, and he knows how to show that to us and actually demonstrate it so we actually know what he's talking about.
I really like the hands-on experience. That's something that you don't find a lot. That's something you have to go on set a lot to just appreciate.
I know this is lighting seminar, but it's not only talk about lightings. He also share his business experience, personal experience, and guide us to what we should do, what kind of personality we should have in this business.
His stories, I think that kind of say everything all in a few example stories that he gives out from time to time.
I would recommend this workshop to anybody who's just brand new to the industry, people who just don't know the swing of it. A lot of this stuff they don't teach you in film school.
I deal with a lot of freelancers every day, a lot of peers that I went to school with, a lot of professionals in the field, and they all need to take this class because it puts you on the next level, on the next playing field.
Burnie's a great guy. Burnie's really authentic. Like everything he learns, everything he teaches, the way he handles himself, the way he deals with other people. He's a one-of-a-kind guy, someone I've never come across before in the industry, and someone I hope to emulate and hope that there are more people like him out there that can help.
And we are back, and we are talking film festivals. And Tony, I think we got a question coming.
We actually have a couple. Let's start with our good friend Dave Donaldson.
Dave, awesome.
He would like to know if you're not submitting to festivals and would like to be a part of the festival scene and support festivals and have a good experience, which festivals would you suggest?
Well, it sounds like somebody like me who just likes to go and see a lot of indie film, talk with filmmakers. Yeah, I can appreciate that. You know, I think there are a lot of festivals love this sort of thing, right? They love patrons. That's the whole idea, right? Showing films for people to enjoy. You know, look to some places that are feasible for you to travel to. Look at the reviews of those festivals. You know, look up the type of films that they show. Maybe you like documentaries. You know, so there's festivals out there. There are other. So you know, and when you show up there, be like a filmmaker. Walk around, introduce yourself. You know, to the folks that run the festival. Don't be shy to talk to the filmmakers and tell them how much you like the project. They love that.
Yeah. Yes.
And you know, they don't be shy to walk straight up to folks, introduce yourself, and you know, express how much you're enjoying yourself or what you like about the festival. People love to hear that.
Just a quick question on that. Are festivals usually looking for people to volunteer, or are they always constantly in need of people to work festivals and volunteer to make these festivals happen?
It absolutely depends upon the festival. I would say a lot of them are. If you have interest, again, don't be shy. Reach out to them, contact them, ask them. You know, express your passion. They love to hear that sort of thing. If you have any experience with that sort of thing, or even if you're just, I mean, for me, you know, there's always that like first step, right? And before I became a film festival programmer and screener, I was really just a film appreciator. I used to watch just 2 independent films a day my whole life nearly. I thought it was nearly an obsession, even maybe a problem.
Maybe it was.
But now it's feeding it, you know.
Yeah, right.
Now I have an outlet for it.
Yes.
But you know, if that's you, then go out there, tell them that's what you do. Talk about the stuff you love, really, because that passion comes through, and people like to work with other passionate people. So
very good point. Yes, and I think maybe that's something social media has taught us too. I mean, I've seen that so much for me. My whole social media is finding the like-minded people. Right. And so you're finding those like-minded people. And now when you're going to a film festival, it's the equivalent to going for a convention in your industry, because this is where all the people are coming together, and that's where you learn all of the different things about that festival and other festivals for that matter. So just, you know, I think that's maybe a good point, that well before I guess you make your film, you had better attend film festivals and find out how they operate, how they run, and sort of what's playing there, right?
I think it's a great idea. You know, go find out, learn more, meet those folks. It's going to give you that much more benefit if you choose to eventually submit there. Yeah,
that's awesome. Tony, we had another question.
We do. We have another question from Landon Brands.
Oh, Landon.
When a film is exiting the festival circuit, what are some wise courses of action to successfully launch it online?
Well, you know, there are lots of avenues you can take with your film afterwards. If you do want to explore a distribution deal, make sure you fully explored that before you launch it online, because likely folks aren't necessarily going to pick you up for a distribution deal If you put it online,
somebody can already get it, right?
Yeah, again, so retain that status. Decide if you're just going to put it up and show it to folks, or if you're going to charge for it, because there are platforms where you can make money yourself, self-distributing. Those are options now. Again, think about your marketing strategy. Think about, okay, if I am going to self-distribute, how am I going to get attention for this? And I would say set some money aside for that, and definitely set a lot of your own time aside, because it's going to be a lot of grassroots.
Right. That brings up a point, which this is not your area of expertise, I don't believe, but I think about that a lot. Look at all the independent films there are, and where do you go to get a great sampling of that? You have Netflix, obviously, but they're not showing indie films. Maybe Amazon is a little closer to being a distributor for indie films, but there's nothing organized. What are your thoughts on that? Is there a place people can go see a lot of indie films, or have some way to check them out?
Yeah, I think they're constantly springing up. I hate to say names, but I think if you do a quick Google search on this,
then I'd find out, right?
I'm sure that those top 5 places, and there's new ones all the time. I know there's one that shows a lot of older films and indie films, and then there's certain platforms that accept self-distribution. You don't have to go through a distributor to get to them. You can just go to them. You give them a little bit of money, format your film, whether they take it off the top or however they do it. And then you actually get some of that money back, which I think most of us like to get some money back.
Something back for putting all that money in.
Most of us do, if we can, it depends, I guess.
But I don't think any one has hit, though, for indie films. That's my feeling, anyway. And I'm comparing it to the giant in the room, Netflix, But there is no channel that's all indie all the time. Maybe there is, but it's not common enough for me to know it, who is not really an indie film guy buff, you know what I mean? It's not that common. So I think that there's great opportunity, frankly, myself, in the future for indie film distribution on a Netflix-style distribution system. Certainly, I'm not going to do it.
Well, I'd be watching it for sure.
I think a lot of people would.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people would.
A lot of people would too, because they like unique stories. They like a lot of creativity. Look at how many independent films came out this year with great success.
Unbelievable.
It's one of the best years I think in years for great independent film. Just totally surprising new stories. New things that you can't sometimes see in studio films.
Right. And with studio films too, going to that, and I know it's so easy to knock the blockbusters. I totally get that.
And I like them too. I do.
They are not making a particular blockbuster that is obviously skewed to me, my age group, my background, anything like that. I get it. But I understand. They're tent poles, and they're out there. But there's also something like my wife and I, we try to go to movies on a semi-regular basis, like we're always looking and seeing what we might like to see. And there's usually something out there every week for us. We feel that way. But studio movies are almost by definition standardized. You never get really off of that sort of standardized telling of the story. You're never challenged with a story, I think, sometimes, where it's, it doesn't end the way you want it to, or that hero character really challenges maybe some of your core beliefs, that you had before. I don't think they ever have. But at least with indies, you see those types of stories, which I think is better. But I don't think anybody like an Amazon or a really big player has grabbed on to the indie film market, and maybe it will never happen. I don't know.
Maybe Burnie's
independent platform. Indie Fix. Indie Flicks. That's what it is. Burnie's Indie Flicks. Okay. But I think it still is a very, very unutilized resource in entertainment is the indie film. Used to be you'd go to, all the little theaters and see. One indie film, I'm going off here now, but that was about filmmaking. I don't know if you ever saw it. I saw it in the theaters, believe it or not, when I first saw it. And it was a little indie film, and I went and saw it. Living in Oblivion. Do you know that movie with Steve Buscemi?
Living in Oblivion. I've heard of it.
Living in Oblivion is probably the best film ever made on making an independent film. And it is absolutely hilarious. Have any of you guys seen it?
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, okay. Yeah. It's actually tear-dropping funny, you know, and still, I have never seen it come back out, never seen it released on a VHS or DVD or anything like that. But if anybody has a chance to go see it, was Living in Oblivion with Steve Buscemi. It is hilarious. And if you ever get a chance, please see that movie.
Mental note to go watch that and see
Yes.
if I have. Sometimes I forget stuff. But
Yeah, right.
See if I have seen it.
You would remember this one. You would remember this one. It's just so funny. But so all that being said, what is how does somebody get a hold of you? How do they contact you for? Do we have her information there? Did we get her information on that? Okay,
we have her Twitter. We have her Twitter handle in the description.
Yep.
Okay, great, super.
So yeah, I'm going to be speaking different venues across the U.S., hopefully across the world, on film festival submission strategy, going into a lot more detail, I think, in these talks. And I'm going to post where I'm speaking on that Twitter feed. Also, if you have any questions about booking me for speaking about film festival submission strategy, then you can find me, either message me there or find me on Facebook. It's my name. And send me a PM.
Okay, and this should have come into the heading of, I should ask you at the beginning of the show, what's your background? What led you to this?
Okay, the short version of this. Like I mentioned, I was a film appreciator.
Sure.
I consider myself that first. Huge passion for me. And I was just watching a bunch of films. I was also sort of an accidental producer. I've been asked, living in LA, to produce stuff. I produced a feature a while back, and I had submitted it to festivals and made a lot of these mistakes. And, I've gone to a bunch of other film festivals that my friends had submitted films, and I kept going back, especially to this one, Dances with Films. And I liked the films there, and I saw a woman working at the festival that programmed a film that I had made at another festival years before that. And I said, you guys need any help? Because I thought, I really got to be part of this. And she said, yeah. And I thought, great. And I thought, okay, I'm never going to hear anything again. Sometimes that's how it works in Hollywood.
Sure, a lot of times,
then the following year, they started getting submissions. They said, can we send you stuff? And I was like, sure you can. And so every year I got a little bit more involved. Backstory of that, too, is also that for many years I was battling an autoimmune disease that I have called Crohn's disease. And in between working and just, everything else, the only other thing I was really able to do besides work was come home, sit on my couch, and just look at a screen. And I thought, what if I do something useful with this?
Yeah.
And so it's really when I thought, okay, well, maybe I could help out at these festivals, watch movies. I can at least stare at a screen when I'm at my worst. And speaking of, I'm producing a film about autoimmune disease coming up called You Don't Look Sick, which is something we hear a lot, us folks with autoimmune disease. We don't look sick, but inside we're kind of sick. And the whole idea is kind of showing that you can, part of it, navigating the healthcare system, but also showing you can have sort of a life and a career and other things in your life while still managing this autoimmune disease.
Wow, that's great.
A lot of elements led to this. There is no specific way to get into, film festivals, but that's my path.
Just volunteer and go out there and
it's a great way
do
to
it.
start.
Yeah. That's great. That's fantastic. Well, I'm not going to shake your hand. I won't do it twice. I almost tried. Thank you so much, Ariana, for coming today. I really appreciate it. It's very, very great to have you.
Thank you for having me. I had a great time.
Yes.
It was wonderful.
And I hope you'll be a friend of the show. We'd like to maybe tap your resource to talk about specific some festivals or festival information coming up, that would be a great, great interest to our audience.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's
Absolutely.
great. That's wonderful. All right. Well, we'll see you again, and we will see you again next week on Burnie's Applebox. Cut. That's a wrap.